Breaking news! A new episode of Let's Be Frank starting now! Hello all! Boy oh boy, it certainly has been a while since I've sat in this stool. Can you guys see my stool? Probably not. Oh man, I'm sorry for the delay, y'all. I've been wanting to film one of these for a little while now, but scheduling just didn't line up. We hit number 20 and it's like, Weird and Wild Creature Productions, stop. That's over now. We are back going full force. A lot of big plans for Weird and Wild Creatures in the future, actually. But that's the future. This is the present. Let's stay in the present and let's go ahead and talk about our first creature of the day from the monster of the past. So much for staying in the present. For our monster of the past today, we have one of the first dinosaurs ever discovered and examined by scientists, the iguanodon. Now, you might recognize the name of this dinosaur. It was the iguanodon that the Disney movie Dinosaur used as its main character. And the ride for Dinosaur Journey to Extinction in Animal Kingdom still uses the iguanodon as that main dinosaur that you gotta go find and recover from the past. So this is a pretty famous dinosaur. Even if the movie itself kinda sucked, and I don't mean kinda, I mean really sucked. We're not here to rank movies or talk movies or anything. We're here to talk about the iguanodon. Now you see those ginormous spiky thumbs it has? Even though this guy was a plant eater and herbivore, it could still defend itself really well with those giant spiked thumbs it has. The iguanodon was pretty big. It could get up to 33 feet long, 12 feet tall, and it weighed up to 10,000 pounds. So the reason it has the name iguanodon is because of the teeth that it has. It was named because its teeth resemble the teeth of an iguana. They're set more towards the back of the mouth, and they're mainly like molars, good teeth to grind up all the plants it's eating. I'm never going to remember this scientist's name if I don't read it, so here we go. If you flip the card over, in the Did You Know section, iguanodon was named by British scientist Gideon Mantell in 1825, 17 years before the term dinosaur was created. Ain't that something, man? This guy got his name before anybody even knew he was a dinosaur. Love that. When scientists did first discover the iguanodon, it wasn't like a complete fossil. They put that giant thumb spike on its nose, assuming it might have been some sort of weird looking rhino. At some point they thought it just completely stood up on its hind legs, but no, it actually kind of walked around on all fours for the most part, except when it was gouging out eyes and all that jazz. But really, there's not much more to say about this guy. He's just a plant-eating dinosaur that wants to be left alone, and if you don't, you're dead. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on now to the nightmares of nature. Ugh. Ugh. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Today's nightmare of nature, the tapeworm. I'm so sorry. Yeah, these guys freak me out. I was just kind of reading some facts about the guy on the card. I just couldn't. I can't deal with this, man. Tapeworms are so gross. Did you know they can get up to 50 feet long? I'm sorry, maybe you don't know what a tapeworm is. Tapeworms live inside the stomachs of other creatures, and they eat the digested food that we eat. These tapeworms can be inside of animals, humans, it doesn't matter. They're gonna eat whatever food its hosts eat. And yeah, like I said, 50 feet long. I feel disgusting just saying that. If you've ever had a tapeworm, I am so sorry. I said it lives in your stomach earlier, but that's not entirely accurate. I was just being silly. It mainly lives in the intestines, of course, because that's where the digested food ends up traveling to once it leaves your stomach. And it's got these like little hooks, as you can probably clearly see, in the top of its head that it uses to latch on to your insides while it just feeds on everything else. And it has these tens of thousands of segments in its body, tiny, tiny little segments in its body. And it grows so rapidly. It can grow like 10 of them in a day. Oh, I think I'm gonna be sick. Although it's not impossible to just straight up outlive your tapeworm, these things do live up to 30 years, so I wouldn't count on it. Not to mention, they're going to be making you sick the entire time it's living in you. And these guys, they can be found all over the world. Just all over the world. You're never safe. I guess if you move to Alaska, maybe, but even then, I don't know if they can't be in Alaska or Antarctica or Greenland. Who knows where they can and can't survive? I don't. The card doesn't. So there are more than 3,400 different species of tapeworms, and some of those species are specifically designed to target specific creatures. So some tapeworms are better at living inside of cows or pigs, and some are just perfectly at home inside a man's gut. Alright, again, I'm going to read something straight off the card for you. A full-grown tapeworm. You know what? Refer to that little circle down there in the corner, right there. A full-grown tapeworm, number one, drops up to 36,000 eggs per day, which are expelled with its host waste, and sometimes finds their way into soil. Livestock that forages in the soil may ingest the eggs or provide a habitat where the eggs develop into small bladder worms. Disgusting name. The bladder worms survive in the animal's meat. Don't like how they put that. When it is killed, and if a person eats the meat that has been contaminated or undercooked, the worm grows inside his or her intestine and starts the cycle all over again. This is why people who eat their steaks rare are disgusting. I'm saying it. I'm calling you out. You probably have a tapeworm. I always used to make fun of Aaron for getting his steaks well done. But maybe he was onto something. I bet that boy's never had a tapeworm in his life. Oh, good Lord. I don't even want to talk about these guys anymore. I just told you about their entire life cycle. We're done. We're moving on to the toxic terrors. Today's toxic terror is the Mexican beaded lizard. This guy is actually one of only 2 venomous lizards that live out in our world. I don't know what the other one is, but maybe we'll find out someday. Katrina, do you know? Venomous lizards?
The
Komodo?
Komodo dragon, it uses the bacterium. Not sure that technically counts as venomous.
It's just gross. That's why it's toxic, right?
Well, it's bacteria in their mouth from all the decaying and rotting flesh.
So these guys can live for up to about 30 years, get up to 3 feet long, and unsurprisingly, live in the grasslands of Mexico.
What's the Gila monster?
The Gila monster. That makes sense. Yeah. Alright. I might have actually talked about that guy before in my dragons. No, I would say Komodo dragons in that one. Viewer, go back and watch through all 20 of my other Weird and Wild Creatures videos. Let me know which one I talked about the Gila monster in. So this guy is a great hunter, and he's a great trapper. Once prey finds itself between his sharp, razor-like fangs, there's literally no escape. It'll bleed out, or he'll shake it around until it's dead, and then he throws his head back and swallows the prey whole. Crap, the card does say it. Like its cousin, the Gila monster. Alrighty then. And it does have a venomous bite. It mainly only uses that venomous bite when it's being attacked by something else like a coyote, but even still, it's what makes it a toxic terror. So like most lizards, these guys hate the cold. And they like the warmth, and they like to stay fat. So when the cold does hit, and similarly to like a bear's hibernation, The lizards will dig themselves underground and just stay there until it's warm enough to come back out. And they're going to survive by all the fat that they've built up in their tail. And once they do come out, they're going to be relatively thin. And they're going to do everything they can to get themselves fat again. They're going to hunt lots of prey. They're going to climb trees and raid birds' nests for eggs. By the way, they can climb up to like 30 feet in all these trees and all that. I'm sure the card says up to, but I'm sure they can climb as high as they want to reach a bird's nest up there. I don't know how easy it is to see down there, but you can even see an image of the beaded lizard biting onto a camper's hand. And it's only doing that because they invaded the lizard's territory and they're trying to shoo it away. So don't mess with nature, kids. You never know what's going to be a toxic terror or a nightmare of nature, or what we're going to talk about next, a monster of the deep. In the depths of the undersea, we'll be talking tonight about the weaverfish. This is your classic ambush fish. It digs itself down into the sand, and just its eyes and spines will be sticking up. And then as another fish swims near, it'll jump up in the blink of an eye, snatch it with its jaws, and it's over. The prey is dead, it's swallowed, and the weaverfish has just successfully caught another meal. Now, we may have just left the toxic terrors, but that doesn't mean this guy doesn't have some poison of his own. Those spikes, those spines on his back, those are toxic. So if another fish wants to come and mess with it, it'll hit those spines, get poisoned or paralyzed, and then die, presumably. Or maybe it'll just make itself even easier for the weaverfish to catch. These little guys aren't tiny by any means. They can get up to 18 inches long, weigh up to about 4 pounds, and their general diet consists of things like shrimp, small fish, and any other crustacean it can find. So this little guy can be found around northwestern Africa and coastal areas around Europe. Judging by those teeth, I'm not surprised. So those 4 fins it's got on itself, they're actually really good for digging. They're used as shovels to help itself get under the sand really quick. It doesn't take a long time for it to get down there, just a few waves of its fins. It can sit down into the sand and be ready for attack.
So these fish are a bony fish, and one of the common features of bony fish is having a swim bladder.
Ooh.
That's what keeps them buoyant. So basically they're able to stay upright or swim without, having to move their fins.
So their bladder has air in
Yeah.
it. Oh, I see, mine only has piss in it.
But the reason I bring up having a swim bladder is that these fish don't have them.
Oh.
So as soon as they stop swimming, they sink, which is why they're able to dig so well under the sand.
Because they don't float.
Right.
That's amazing. That makes sense. Because you'd be constantly fighting against yourself. You'd either have to fart all the bubbles out of your bladder,
They
or
have no connection to the outside. Swim bladders are an isolated entity.
So that's
in the middle of the
always
fish.
going to be full of air?
Well, they can regulate it using their muscles.
So
and
they could
compress.
fart it all out.
No, there's no air that moves within the body. Unless you're talking about a fish that's able to take in some of the air from, let's say, the surface, like actual oxygen.
Like dolphins.
Not a fish. They're still mammalian.
Okay, fine. One more thing I'll say about the weaverfish before we wrap up here. Even if a bigger fish tried to eat a dead weaverfish, the toxins, the venom in those spines will still activate. That does not go away once the fish dies. It'll still be able to poison whatever fish tries to consume its dead body. But I think it's time we resurface. Thank you, Katrina, for all the information you gave us, my little marine biologist. And we talk now about the tiny terrors. All right, y'all, let's talk about probably the ugliest spider I've ever seen in my life, the Bolas Spider. I'm going to go ahead and crouch down for a minute so you can get this thing in full view. Look at how disgusting that thing is. I hate it. Wow, dude. It's just so disgusting. It's got those yellow pus bags and that giant Aunt Fanny rear end. I hate it. Believe it or not, though, in the world of insects, this thing, extremely attractive. Not necessarily to male spiders, but rather to male moths. Believe it or not. It'll start to excrete this chemical that excites the moths and draws them in to get a taste of whatever sweet delicacy they're smelling. Then when they least expect it, like a 90s cartoon, the Bolas Spider will pull out a web club and bonk him on the head. Then the moth will stick to the club, he's stuck, birds are swimming around his head, and he gets taken away and eaten. That's freaking hilarious. So these guys are pretty small. They can really only get up to 0.8 inches long, and they can live in pretty much any area of the world. They tend to live in forests or high in trees, though, in particular. You know, somewhere moths would be. So again, despite this horrific appearance, there's actually purpose in it. So these guys don't really make webs. They just hang out in trees. And other predators don't really attack them because they think it's just some sort of fungi growing on the tree. Or maybe some bird droppings, which I don't blame them because look at it. But while it's just sitting there not being attacked by predators, it's creating this scent that it, mimics that of what a female moth will create. And that's how it gets its food. It doesn't have to hunt. It doesn't have to hope something flies into its web. It doesn't even have to worry about being hunted. This Bolas spider is literally living the best life a spider can. So the word bola is actually a tool cowboys used to use to catch cattle. Well, they're like, it seems very inhumane, but it's like a rope with 2 stones tied to each end, and you throw it, and then the stones would wrap around the cow, making it unable to move, and that's basically what the spider does. So, we've all seen it, again, in the cartoons. They'll throw something around the legs, they'll all get wrapped together and fall over, So maybe it's not that inhumane, but it definitely means death when the spider does it. So we've been talking a lot about the female Bolas spider. The male Bolas spider ain't living as good of a life. When they hatch, they are fully developed and immediately go to look for a mate. That's crazy. Imagine being born a fully grown man and immediately hunting for a chick. That's crazy. But these guys, now, I just told you, the female Bolas spider, 0.8 inches long, very tiny. The male, no bigger than the head of a pin. So these guys are almost to the point of being microscopic, and yet they are still on the lookout for these giant beauties. Gotta give them credit. Let's go ahead, push these beautiful spiders to the side, and move on now to the strange wonders. Today's strange wonder is a creature you should all know pretty well, the eastern gray kangaroo. Yeah, everybody knows what a kangaroo is, so I'll make this one quick, but that doesn't mean this little guy ain't interesting. So as we all know, they live in the Australian outback, and it's pretty harsh over there. They gotta survive in really harsh conditions. That sun beats down on you. So they mainly do all their hunting for food at night. And by hunting, I mean searching. They don't eat meat or anything. They are vegetarians. But just because they don't need to hunt for prey in the traditional sense, doesn't mean that they aren't deadly. Kangaroos' legs can deliver extremely powerful kicks that can definitely kill a man if he's caught off guard. Or just kicked enough times. Now, there are a lot of different breeds of kangaroos. The only other one I know of by name are like the red-chested kangaroos. But these guys in particular can get up to 5 feet long, with their tails being 3 feet long, and they can weigh up to about 150 pounds, which honestly isn't too bad. I weigh more than a kangaroo. So obviously, if you're living in the harsh environment of the outback, there's not going to be a ton of water. And the kangaroo gets most of its water from the food it eats. It has specialized bacteria in its gut that separates nutrients from the water, so the kangaroo can have a storage of water for a lot longer of a time. And it can go days without taking even a sip of the stuff. Did I say days? I meant several weeks! That's even crazier. I couldn't go that long without water. In fact, I'm thirsty right now. And I'll be thirsty again in a couple of minutes. Going a few weeks without water. That's crazy. Anyway, these roos are pretty fantastic, but I think it's time to move on to the monsters of the mind. Alright, this is another one you guys should all know well. It is the sexiest cryptid out there. Which one did you think I was going to say? Huh? You heard sexiest cryptid. Which one did you think I was going to say? Bigfoot? Skunk ape? Better not have thought skunk ape. That's right. You all had an image in your mind when I said that. Comment down below which one you thought I was going to say. But I bet you thought it was going to be the Mothman. Everybody loves Mothman. Maybe not this Mothman though, because this is the creepiest I have ever seen him look. So supposedly, from the year 1966 to 1967, a year, the town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, was anything but. Apparently, Mothman was terrorizing people in this small West Virginian town. And, yeah, that's about it. No, I'm just kidding. He might have been the cause of this bridge that collapsed, that killed 12 people. Now, why Mothman would want to kill a bunch of people on a bridge, I don't know. I didn't think he was that kind of guy. So the Mothman only got his name because some newspaper editor thought it was funny to spoof off the name Batman and call him Mothman. Now, honestly, to me, he doesn't so much resemble a moth, at least not in this description. I mean, he's got the big glowing red eyes, fine, but the, feathery wings? That's not moth-like. A lot of people even compared him to like an owl, but bigger. Could have called him Owlman. Wait a minute. Owlman exists. We've talked about him not as a full creature feature up here, but I did mention him briefly. I'm pretty sure in the trading cards video, the fourth Weird and Wild Creatures video I ever did. We gotta talk about him sometime. Maybe next time. Maybe not, because I might forget. We'll talk about Owlman here soon. The weirdo child kidnapper that he is. Mothman wouldn't kidnap a child. Right? Alright, I'm going to tell you about Mothman's first ever sighting. Here we go. The first sighting of Mothman came on November 15th, 1966, when two couples were driving past an old factory that had been used to make explosives during World War II. The people saw two strange red lights near the factory gate and stopped the car to get a better look. To their horror, they saw that the lights were actually the glowing eyes of the creature that would later be named Mothman. They sped away, but Mothman took flight and chased after them, even keeping pace when they drove at over 100 miles per hour. That's a wonderful story. So to those who don't believe that the Mothman is a real creature, they were thinking that everybody was just getting spooked by an owl with large orange eyes. Which I can believe, just a bigger than average owl, what are you gonna do? I don't know how they assumed this owl was bigger than the size of a man, but whatever. It's funny, a lot of these monsters of the mind we talk about are like these ginormous, terrifying, almost Lovecraftian horrors from mythology. And then you have a guy who looks like he's cosplaying a green alien mixed with some sort of Aarakocra. I don't know, dude. I'm not buying Mothman. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of people out there who would consider him to be sexy in some of his appearances. I don't see it, especially not here. Nobody could love that face. One more thing I'll read verbatim for you before we end the video. That bridge I mentioned earlier. On December 15th, 1967, exactly 13 months after Mothman's first appearance, the Silver Bridge near Point Pleasant suddenly collapsed, sending 46 people to their deaths in the water. Oh, 46, that's more than I thought. In the water below. Some survivors say they saw Mothman flying around and believe it caused the tragic event. Okay, I don't think Mothman is interested in causing bridges to collapse, but hey, you know, what do I know? Maybe he just hated all those 46 people in particular. Who knows? I don't know if I'm centered or not, but hopefully none of y'all are gonna have a problem with it. This was fun. I really miss doing this, guys. Weird and Wild Creatures is my favorite thing to do on this channel. I think it's official at this point. This, talking about Legos, Pokemon, I just enjoy these things. Truth be told, I'm trying to trim a lot of the fat off of my channel for you guys. Because there's a lot of stuff I can tell you just don't want to see more of, and there's a lot of stuff I can tell you guys do enjoy seeing, like Weird and Wild Creatures. Thank you so very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you give it a like and subscribe if you have not already. Follow my Instagram and Facebook at Let's Be Frank 2020, and follow my TikTok at Let's Be Frank TikTok. And with all that being said, thank you once again so very much for watching. And until next time!